Hi, my name's Chris Rolfe, and I'm one of the co-creators of the Animal Shelter Starter app. And today I'm going to give you a brief walkthrough of our application so you can see what its capabilities are. The Animal Shelter Starter app is available on the App Exchange for free, and we've built it in such a way that it is extensible. And as the name suggests, it really is that starting point for any animal organization to get started with animal management within Salesforce. We've also designed the Animal Shelter Starter app to be compatible with a non-profit success pack. So again, if you're an animal charity and you want to manage your fundraising and your animals all on the same Salesforce platform, you can quite happily do so. Okay, so we're looking at the home screen here, and when you install the Animal Shelter Starter app, you'll get a new app signified by our little Astro veterinary image here. And the home screen shows you animals within your care, today's tasks and today's events. But as usual with Salesforce, this is all fully customizable. So let's dive in and have a look at some of the details. Before I take you through the animal side of things, there might be some initial setup you need to do. And this is around what we call locations. So locations within Salesforce, within this app, we use to signify maybe a kennel block, small animals unit, category. But we also use locations to signify any fosters, people fostering your animals in the care of your organization, but also other organizations that you might have an affiliation with, that you might transfer animals to, be that a vet, be that another animal establishment. But it's important to get the location set up first. So when you start in entering animals into the system, you've got somewhere to home them. So let's have a look at a small animals unit, for example, here. This is a child-parent relationship within the object. So we can create the top end location of small animals, and then we can create the number of pens, pods, cages, whatever you refer to them as, in that particular small animals unit. So here you can see we have 4 pens all available, and we've also got an assessment date of when that last block is next due for an assessment. We also have capacity showing at the top of the corner in the highlights panel here. And if we go through, we have this little flow on the right-hand side here. So say, for example, we wanted to change the status of this animal block to unavailable. Say we're going to do some deep cleaning of the small animals unit. We can quite easily just go through here, and this will set all the underlying units to unavailable as well. And obviously, if there is animals actually allocated in those units currently, it will tell you that as well. So if we finish that, and we see the status and the capacity update here. So we now can see that we've got no capacity for available small animals to house. That's going to be really useful if you're answering a call or someone comes up to you to say that they've got some animals that need to be looked after. You can actually immediately look at the capacity available. Let's just set that back to available. When we look at foster locations, again, we create a foster record. And here we can have a look at it here with an assessment date. Obviously, you can add your own additional information to these pages. And this links directly to a contact record. So a contact record in Salesforce, so you can see their name, address, and the full details. So you're not having to duplicate that information. And this is very similar for organizations that you may have an affiliation with. So if we have a look at organizations, here's one here. Here's their record, the information about their record, and also this links to an account record. So again, it's that same sort of combination. It's worth noting here that on the account and the contact objects, we actually put a couple of flags, which you can tick to indicate that contact is a foster, or tick to indicate that account is a animal organization. And that just makes the whole flow and the functionality behind the application easier to search for the fosters or the organizations that you need to find. So once you've set up your locations, you can now start looking at animals within your care. So let's have a look at our animals. So here is we've got some animal records, and we're going to concentrate on Elsa. So here's some standard information that we've captured around Elsa: name, microchip tag, where the animal was lost and found, age, etc. And all of this is information that we sort of decided currently that this is the information that will be useful for most animal charities or organizations. But obviously, again, being Salesforce, you can quite easily customize this. It's worth noting at this stage there are a number of Lightning components in the application, so it is important that you make sure that you have My Domain configured. And one of those Lightning components is this easy drag and drop image element here. So once we've entered Elsa's details, we can quite happily just drag an image of Elsa so we can easily identify. So that's all the details around the animal. The next element we'll look at the associated records around the animal. We'll come to adoption in a minute, but first let's concentrate on actions. So we use actions for a number of elements here, for treatments, for exercise, and for nutrition. And we can see any actions that we've got involving Elsa in this information here. We can create one-off actions. Let's say we wanted to add a new treatment. We can determine what the treatment type is, when it was happened, and what the description of the treatment. And we even have the capability to link the treatment to a particular condition. So as we can see here, for Elsa, she's got a condition of arthritis in rear legs. So there might be a number of treatments that will associate to that condition to help that condition be alleviated in the animal. And it's very similar for exercise. So if you wanted to generate an exercise action or a nutrition action, we can do that. But the other thing we can do with actions is schedule actions. So if we come down here and do an add schedule actions, we can now set a time frame that this action might need to be done. So say, for example, with Elsa, she needs to have an exercise plan. To help out with her arthritis, she needs to make a walk of at least 2 miles a day. So let's say for the next 5 days, starting today at let's say 5 p.m. We're going to put Elsa on an action plan, and it's going to be a 2-mile walk. We also have the ability here to generate tasks if we need to, so you can automatically assign those tasks to someone else, but we'll turn that off for now. We now go through, and this will generate a whole set of actions for Elsa. So if we just refresh the screen, go back to our actions, look under our exercise, and you can see here, Elsa now has a number of actions for that 2-mile walk. So maybe you've got volunteers coming into the system. They could go through, they could see each one of these actions. They could take it through. They could then mark that action as complete, who it's given by, what time and date it was completed, and any comments. So say, for example, you notice that the limp that Elsa had might be getting better. So you can add those comments into the system. For our treatment actions, let's have a look at treatment action we've got here. Obviously, this is dummy data, so there's no specific information. But for the treatment action here, we've got this screen that you can add additional information into. And we even have the capability to actually mark what medicines were used as part of this treatment. So within the system, we'll have a look at medicines later. You can list the number of medicines, and we can use the system as a very crude way of a medicine inventory system, if you like, to actually start tracking how much medicine you're using against a particular animal. So let's go back to our animal now, and let's then move on to movements. So this is obviously related to the locations we set up previously. And here we have a flow which can help you decide which movement type you need, whether you're going to house the animal internally, whether it's an animal actually coming for boarding, which might go to a different accommodation block than an animal that's come in for rescue, whether the animal is going to be moved to a foster location or transferred to another organization, or whether the animal's been adopted or marked as deceased. These are all the sort of movement actions that we currently have in the system. And this is all based on the flow. So again, it's very easily to adapt and change yourselves. And below, we have a list of the movement records. So we can fully track the history of where Elsa or any other animal is in the system. So which locations it's been housed in. Maybe it's gone out to a foster location, then come back. It could even have actually had been adopted and come back because the adopted parents of the animal just didn't quite get on, which isn't unusual in some establishments. So let's go through and actually change the location of where Elsa is. So for Elsa, all we're going to do is we want to move her to a different kennel, a kennel block within the system. So we're going to say she's housed internally. We click next, and it actually tells us that currently that Elsa's in cage 1, and do we wish to continue? So we're going to say yes at this point. It's already freed up cage 1 as a location, so we can either put Elsa back in cage 1, or we're actually going to relocate her to cage 2. Next. And that's done, and it's all done. And now we can see we've got a new movement record, which is the current movement record of where Elsa is. So we've got that full history of where the animal's been within our centres, and also, quite importantly, how many animals we've got, at which stage they are, and where they are. Let's move on to alerts. Alerts is a way that you can actually put information in this red banner here, just to give you some information that people who might be working with your animals. So say in that example of having a volunteer, where a volunteer is coming in to walk the animal every day, if need be, you could put a high-level alert on here to actually signify to that user that there may be something they need to worry, they need to be concerned about the animal, or they need to watch out. So example here, we're going to put in a new alert, and we're going to say pause on lead. And we're just putting this down to, again, to indicate to the person who may be taking them for a walk that they just need to be a bit careful. They need to be a bit stronger on the lead for that walk period. So we're going to turn around and say this alert is starting today. And in the scenario, maybe that this alert was for an animal needing to be quarantined for a period of time, or need to be looked after for a period of time, we can put a sort of an end date on here as well. So let's just put an end date of tomorrow. We can now save that. And if we go back to our animal, back to Elsa, just refresh the screen, and we've now got that new alert here. And once that alert time period has expired, that alert will disappear. So that's about alerts. Obviously with Salesforce, we have attachments, so any information you want to store about the animal can be easily uploaded into Salesforce. And then we also have adoption. So let's go back to our animal, and as we can see that the status of Elsa is she is available for adoption, and we can then start a new adoption record. So the first thing we need to do is pick who the adoption person is going to be, who's adopting her, and then we can click Save. And now if we go into our adoption system, we can see here that there's this new adoption record. We can now go into the adoption record, and we have a series of statuses along the top using our Salesforce Path component of the information that might be collected through a typical adoption process. And again, this is fully customizable to your own requirements. So we might go through an initial review. Someone might come along and reserve the animal. There might be a home inspection. And at the time all of these are filled in, there's obviously additional information you could be capturing in the list here of what needs to be done. So let's say that we're going to mark that as a home inspection. And as additionally with Path, not configured here, but you can configure guidance and information key fields that need to be completed to help you through that adoption process. So that's adoption of the animals. So we've been through today the details of the animal, the adoption process, actions, movements, alerts, and attachments. Here we have, we've used this console view to make it a little bit easier to manage and keep everything in one location. If we go into medicines, here's that information I showed you earlier. We can record certain medicines if this is appropriate to your organization, whether the medicine's active, as is, it is available, what type of medicine it is, what type of delivery method it is. And we can even include the manufacturer and batch number. And again, each of these medicines, we can then see where that medicine's been used and how much has been used. So if we need to track medicines within the organization, we can do that as well. With that, I want to just thank you for your time And please come and check us out on the Power of Us Hub on the Animal Shelter Starter group. Thank you very much.